It comes with a heavy heart that Speed Duels seems to be officially over.
5, 4, 3, 2.
What's going on, guys? It's Yugi Bros, and today I'm bringing sad news. According to a Brazilian official Yu-Gi-Oh distributor, Duel confirms Speed Duels is over and will be replaced by a new product. Speed Duels has not been well accepted worldwide, and one more Speed Duel product is to be expected. So, with this information, assuming this isn't just like a Brazilian thing or like certain territories thing like the last Speed Duel product was, I believe this means this is the end. What does that mean? Well, originally the end was supposed to be when the Battle City box came out, but that product was an overwhelming success, and then there was a survey that went out, which was wild because a lot of times Konami just doesn't do that, and then it was crazy to see the amount of people that were like, no, do not get rid of this. This, first off, the box set was a brilliant design, and second off, like, we want more of this, so they kept going with it. Originally, that was going to be the end. I think that was 2021, and no, then we kept going, and it's been 3 years since, but Speed has been on the decline since, I'd argue, the second GX box, so I guess the first midterm, the first mini box, right? It's kind of gone downhill since then, and it's just never really recovered. And of course, you know, Speed Duels was an interesting idea that I originally thought wasn't going to go anywhere. I didn't want to do anything with Speed Duels, and then once I saw the potential to make it like a format and build from that, I was like, oh no, I'm so in on this. Like, this is a great idea. Originally, I thought it was just another rehash at Yu-Gi and Kaiba like they always do. But no, this had a lot more potential to go a big distance, and unfortunately, they just never really hit it off correctly. I think the box set was the only upside. The box idea, the idea of you get everything in this $30 box, every single card, every single skill. If you buy 3 of the boxes, you have playsets, and then the game is just purely skill-based. And I thought that was awesome. And then for the players that care about expensive cards or rarities, you had the chance of upgrading certain cards from the box as secret rares, and that gave the game a market element that we've never really seen before, right? Because everything's usually locked behind a paywall of it's hard to pull, but you got everything guaranteed. You just also had a chance of getting a foil version, and that's where the gamble ratio argument comes into play. So it still created a real market and created a way for it to be more like it was Duel Devastator, except Duel Devastator if dude had like an extra pull ratio. Like, imagine everything in Duel Devastator that came Ultra also had this little mini pack that came with like 8 secret rares of like 24 secret rares. Like, imagine if Feet Blossom had a secret rare. That would have been money, right? That would have been money at the gate. And then dude would have had more value, and then people would have just bought more than 3 copies of the box and called it a day, right? So the Speed box was a huge, overwhelming success, and clearly, like, as you see, ever since they released it, before that they were doing starter decks and packs, and I would argue the packs were the worst products ever created, and the starter decks were okay, but again, didn't have that it factor like the secret rare thing, so you'd buy 3 and then you'd just be done. The first time they released the box sets, or I should say, ever since they released the box sets, they've only done box sets since. These are tournament packs, and tournament packs are tournament packs. But I would also argue the tournament packs weren't designed great either. I think the Ultras should have been Ultimates, because at least in that sense, Ultimate Rares of old cards that we never would have had anyways, because we didn't get Ultimate Rares in the TCG until Soul of the Duelist, and that was about the tail end of Yu-Gi-Oh! DM Yu-Gi-Oh! I should say. That would have given, like, Relinquish, Blue Eyes, Red Eyes. I mean, in that sense, we would have put Blue Eyes and Dark Magician in different arts, but, like, Red Eyes, Relinquish, Thousand Eyes Restrict, Gaia, stuff like that as ultimate rares would have been huge for collectors everywhere. So I also the lack of distribution on these was kind of insane. Like, you could barely find these the day they were supposed to release. It took like a month to finally hit the market, a month late for them to finally hit the market, and that was just always terrible. But yeah, as you can see, the box set, once it came out, was a huge success. This was where Speed was supposed to end, and instead we went years after that with more boxes. So, I mean, where do I think they failed? God, there's so many things that I would have done differently had I been running this. First off, you go Battle City here, you go GX, you go GX, you go GX. This one here should have been a 5Ds box, and this obviously should have been a carry-on from that. Sartoria should have just been in this box. It was the villains box. I don't think the midterm thing should have ever been created. I don't like this. I think this one is terrible. At least this midterm one had more secret rares and just a better card pool overall than this. This had so many reprints, and since everything in this game is relatively cheap already, especially when you're reprinting GX cards like from this one already, like, it just didn't need it, right? This was just like a rehash of what we forgot to throw in this box, and that wasn't great. Well, this box was fantastic. I think this box is great. Overall, it's probably one of the best. It probably is the best box minus the Battle City box. There's just so much cards in here that are relevant. Yeah, this should have been a 5Ds box, and we should have just gone from there. Synchro format in general was one of the times that Yu-Gi-Oh! Kind of hyped itself back up, right? And Plant Synchro, to mention a few, Rescue Cat, Turbo, X Sabers, like, those decks were huge at their time, and we could have done so much with that. But obviously, just like the Signer Dragons, you could have done so much with a Signer Dragon set. There's just like endless possibilities there. That would have been crazy. And unfortunately, when they went back to Battle City, that was the first like big decline. I mean, I'd argue this was the first decline, but like, this was the biggest like head scratcher. And while there are good cards in this box, it's just like this box should have been here realistically. And then GX goes, and then 5Ds starts. Like, it just didn't really make sense. Or if you had released this as like a midterm thing, in my opinion, if you did two 200 boxes a year, which are the big ones, and two 100 card boxes a year, which are like the midterm ones, you could have gotten away with making a 5Ds big set, and then throwing a Streets of Battle City mini set in between. And if you released those 4 times a year, right, two 200s and two 100s, you do like a 2, then a 1, then a 2, then a 1, right, and you keep going in that order, I think it would have been a lot better. Whereas they did these like once or twice, so it was one box and then one box. And sometimes it would be 6 months apart, sometimes it would be longer, and that was really ridiculous. And you can't keep a player base interested with the same amount of cards forever, right? You need to keep releasing stuff. And while people would argue the boxes are 200 and 100 card sets, you shouldn't release those every 4 months. Okay, that's fine, but like, look at current Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Everyone will be like, well, we have 4 core sets a year, sure, and then we have like 3 to 4 deck building sets a year, and then we have 3 to 4 reprint sets a year, and then we have 1 to 2 duelist packs a year, legendary duelists, whatever they're calling them now, and like, and then there's just more stuff that comes out in between that, and tins and all this other stuff, and it's like, you're getting new product in regular Yu-Gi-Oh! Like every 3 weeks consistently, if not longer, or if not sooner. That's a lot to keep up with. You're telling me the cards that have been out for years, you're going to release once every essential 6 months? That's not keeping the player base interested. That's not keeping the content interested. If you notice in general, Speed Duel videos, I'm not talking about mine, I'm talking about like the general community, obviously are much more popular in the beginning when a product comes out, and then peter off until the next box set gets released. And it's just because content creators can only do so much, right, with the stuff that they have. Like, I had even gone on record saying I don't want to release content to my viewers unless it's like 100%, I'm 100% in on it, And obviously, I'm a good outlier, right? I wouldn't use me as a good benchmark here because my videos are sporadic as hell, but you can only do so much with so much, and eventually this stuff it just gets old. It just gets repetitive. It just gets tedious. And another thing I would have done differently, I would have had regionals, right? If you're creating a second format, essentially, which is something Konami had never done prior to this, don't just make it a side event and call it a day. Give us regionals, give us invites, give us a national floor for speed duels. Make it worth our while, right? Because otherwise, what are we doing this for? We're just doing it for side events? Like, you can only go so far with that. I'd even argue that the Edison format and GOAT format and stuff, they should be having regionals. You can't just give them side events and call it a day. And like, I know they've tried to make the side events for Edison specifically like more interesting, like they had their own little mini YCS or whatever. But again, like, to what end? Like, you just get the prizes and that's it? No, give those players invites. Give them a national floor to then go further with it. Like, look at Magic, look at other games, right? They all have different formats, and those different formats are still treated equally to the other format, or at least for the most part. You know, you get stuff that's worth it. I'm not going to spend money on old formats if there's no point in it aside from one side event like every YCS that shows up. And maybe regionals will have it too, but again, like, it doesn't feel like there's any weight or gravity to it aside from, oh, I get this play in the side event and then it doesn't matter again. Like, that's what Speed should have had. When Speed first came out and I said, oh, this looks like it's finally going somewhere, I thought that's where they were going with it. I could have sworn I talked to a Konami representative at a regional once, and they had said, yeah, we plan on doing regionals and invites and stuff. And that got me so pumped. And then nothing came from that. It was just side sets and that's it. And we just never went anywhere. So, I think a lot of things could have been done differently. I talk about this in other videos, but like, where do we go from here, right? They say this is going to get replaced with a new product. Does that mean it's Rush Duels? And how do I feel about Rush Duels? Okay, Rush Duels is cool for like a day, right? Like, when Rush Duels first got added to Dueling Book and I tried it out, I was like, oh, this is crazy. And then I got very old very quickly, and then I was like, all right, I don't care anymore. And I'm not the majority. The player base, from what I understand, is like 50-50. A lot of people want this, and a lot of people say it's too late. We're 5 years behind the OCG. So what are you going to do? You're going to drop a bunch of products all at once? Because that's not going to get people on board. It's hard enough to keep up with normal Yu-Gi-Oh! Dropping a bunch of product. Now I got to learn a bunch of new cards. And all these cards, except for the old iconic cards, are brand new. And the mechanics of the game are different, but you can't also release it very quick, very slowly, because then you're 5 years behind and you're never going to catch up. I don't know how you would do that outside of doing like what like other territories have been doing recently. Like, the Chinese sets will release like a core set and then also add an extra like 40 cards to that core set of stuff that they're just behind on. I don't know if that's the way to do this. I also don't know. I just don't know. Like, you would do the same box set setup, I imagine, and I feel like that's how you would go about something with Rush Duels. But Rush is on Duel Links, right? So, like, why don't you just leave it there? And in my opinion, what you do is, instead of replacing this with Rush Duels and seeing how that experiment goes, you replace it with something that obviously will be much more concrete, and I've already echoed this earlier in the video, and that is release like an Edison box. Do a GOAT box, then do a Plant Synchro box, and do a DUEA box, etc. Like, do old format boxes. And if you're gonna do that, do what I said prior with Speed Duels, do regionals for it, do invites for these formats. Like, make these formats interesting for people to want to play aside from just side events. But even if you're just gonna do side events, a Edison box I feel like would go over amazingly, right? First off, instead of reprinting Light of Destruction and Retro Pack's a different argument, but like, instead of rewaving these old sets to try to get more old format cards in circulation, do an Edison box, right? But also, don't do the Speed Duels thing where you can only use Speed Duel cards in Speed Duels. Don't do the Edison cards can only be in Edison. Just put out the reprints. You put out the reprints, people will use the old cards, but people will also buy the new cards. People love the new borders. People love problem-solving card text. People also love the secret rare variants that you can pull in these boxes. So do a box like that for Edison. Oh my god, I think it'd go over huge, right? Like, I'd go in. I'm not a huge Edison fan. I like it more than GOAT. I think I'd be much more interested in like a DUEA box or maybe a Plant Synchro box. Plant Synchro was a little past Edison. But go in order, right? I mean, you could do GOAT first, then do an Edison one, then do Plant Synchro, you know, and go from there. And I think you could have a really interesting box set idea that really just fuels itself for the rest of forever. As long as you're like years behind the current format, you could do format boxes for the rest of your life, Konami, and then you just be set, right? And I think these things would be fantastic. Keep them the same style. Do like a 200 card box set with, obviously you're not doing skills, but you could do like tokens or something as like the variant, whatever. And then for the pack that they get with the foil pack, just have it be like secret rare variants of cards that you already get common in the box. And then, like, for example, the Dandelion that they just put in the Speed Duel box would be in a Edison box, or a Plant Synchro box, right? And, like, that'd be really cool. And it would also get banned cards to get reprinted in circulation. Banned cards that just need updated text or need a reprint. Like, Delinquent Duo, for example, is just really expensive for no reason other than it hasn't been reprinted and God knows when. Metamorphosis could finally get like a foil printing that's not just the tournament pack one, which, my god, is beyond expensive. And like, that's an excuse to reprint banned cards in updated text and in foil versions, but has a cause behind it, right? Instead of just releasing, like, I've always been vocal about Konami should release a banned pack, all cards that are banned in it, but just like release a bunch of old banned cards. That way, you know, we can get reprints and they can be cheaper and stuff for older formats. But no, if you just do the box set idea that I've been talking about, I think that'd be insane. I think an Edison box would be one of the greatest things they'd ever released. I think it would go down in history as one of the greatest products Konami would ever release. And same goes for like a GOAT box and a Plant Synchro and a DUEA and etc. I think if you're going to replace Speed Duels with another product, don't do Rush Duels. Leave Rush Duels to Duel Links. Instead, do format style box sets and just watch the world explode with just the amount of things that can come from this. And you don't have to run every single one of these specific box set ideas out of your side events, though I think you should, right? Whatever the new box is, you should be running that as a side event. And then if you have other popular ones, like say you're up to DUEA box, right? Run the new box for a side event, but also if Edison is still as popular as it is or whatever, keep that side event as going as well. Like, there's no downside. You just keep running more side events. I don't know. I think this would be absolutely ridiculous. I think it would be. They are crazy if they don't do something like this. And if it's Rush Duels instead, I mean, I understand there's a player base for it. Good luck. I just think you are going to get way more support from players and old players and just everyone alike if you do like a format style box to replace Speed. But anyways, back to Speed. They said there's going to be one more expected Speed Duel product. What could that be? Well, they said they don't want to do 5Ds because they don't want to go anywhere beyond fusions for new players. But if this is the last box, who cares anymore, right? What does it matter? I would say do a 5Ds product. If they're not going to do a 5Ds product, then do the end of DM Yu-Gi-Oh! Right? Do the Bakura arc, do the World Championship arc thing. Maybe do a box that's Yugi and Jaden combined, right? Everything that you missed from DM and GX eras that like could be iconic, throw them in. We never got Yubel in Speed Duels, and that feels kind of weird considering you have like 4 GX boxes now, and still don't have a Yubel. And Yubel needs a reprint anyway, so that'd be pretty cool. But again, if we're not caring about what we release, I mean, I don't see why Synchros and XYZs can't be implemented into this. I feel like the game gets real complicated once you add pendulums, and don't even attempt to add links to Speed. But I think XYZs and Synchros weren't that hard of a concept to finally get down. So if you wanted to go that route, maybe throw in some XYZs and Synchros. But again, I don't think they're going to do that. I think if you do one more box, it's just going to be like combine Jaden, combine Yugi, throw in some other characters, I guess, that we haven't gotten yet, and call it a day. I don't know. It's weird to think that if this is the end, they're still going to release one more product. Like, I know the last box didn't do all that well, so like, what makes them think one more will? But I do understand the idea also of like ending it officially instead of just being like, here's a statement, the game's over, have fun, you know, like maybe do something real about it. I don't know, guys. This is it's a bit of a head scratcher. I mean, it's not in the sense of why the game is dying. The game's been dying, and they're not doing great to support it. They never have. But I think your best way to replace it is with format style boxes, Edison, Goat, Synchro, Plant Synchro, etc. DUEA, there's so many cards in Duelist Alliance that need reprints, like Shadal's, Tallarknights, Burning Abyss. Oh my god, you made the Burning Abyss all like secret rares. God. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? But I don't know. There's so much missing potential that could have came from this that we just never got. Guys, what do you think? Let me know your comments down below. Like, if this is the end, where are we gonna go from here? Like, I do plan still on having Master Duel content. Streaming on a Mac is almost impossible. I gotta get like Windows parallels. As it is, I plan on getting a new computer soon anyway, so once that happens, I can start streaming a lot more things and doing a lot more things that aren't just Speed Duel related or whatever I'm limited to on my 8-year-old MacBook. But where are we at? Where are you thinking we should go from here? Should Rush Duels replace Speed Duels? Should we replace it with something else? Should it be Edison box? Should it be completely something I haven't even thought of yet? Let me know in the comments down below, and I guess I'll see you guys in the next video, but whether or not that video is Speed Duel related or not is yet to be seen.